And welcome back to another episode with the Real Teachers of Atlanta. I am Ty.
I'm Nikki.
I'm Joya.
Today we're going to be talking about our investigation. We were investigated due to our podcast. So let's get into it.
We got the queens in the house, y'all. Real teachers of Atlanta.
I am Mrs. P. Smith, the Mama Bear at school, your favorite ELA and SPED teacher, but always teaching my students about business.
I'm Miss Rose, commonly known as the snarky teacher, always ready with the good candy. The kids say I'm their favorite math teacher.
After school, it's lights, camera, action. During school hours, it's Miss Carter, the life science teacher saving lives.
We got the queens in the house, y'all. Real teachers of Atlanta.
Wow.
Straight to the point.
Straight to the point.
That's it. Go ahead.
Okay.
So what we got investigated for?
So we got investigated by our district regarding our podcast. Ms. Carter, do you want to share your experience that you went through when you were investigated?
I want to know what happened.
Yes, I do.
How did we
too.
arrive
Okay, so
there?
let's back up. So we initially started this podcast in November 2022.
Yeah.
Okay, and the intention was to provide resources for teachers, entertainment for teachers, especially for new teachers, because a lot of new teachers really don't know how to integrate themselves into the education world.
True.
And we would talk about different topics in the media, from school discipline issues, support from admin, ways that teachers can acclimate themselves. And I think sometimes when people hear about things that they believe that are consistent with their own school, they don't like it. So we have been doing the podcast since November, as many of you know. Around March, let me back up. No, March.
Well,
it was around March.
Well, it was the end of.
It was end of No. Sorry, the end of February.
End of February that we got the call.
Yeah, so end of February.
It was like the dead end, like maybe the 27th, 28th.
Yeah, because this was around the same time the kids were having their Black History performance.
It was the end of February.
Yeah, it was the end of February.
We were told to not report to our duty.
Right. So this was toward the end of February. And the days leading up to it was kind of strange because our admin maybe like a few days before, they're saying, "Oh my God, you all are celebrities." And I'm like, okay, like what are you talking about? Well, I thought it was because I'm an actress, so maybe they saw some play things that I've done in the past or something like that. So I'm like, okay, I didn't think much about it. But then you heard the same thing,
right? The day that, it wasn't no surprise that I was going to get the call to report to the district office. When I leaving that day, I had seen that said admin talking to two other teachers. And let's just go. So we did an episode on the luau, and that in that episode, it talked about a lot of things discipline. Yep. We were very frustrated as educators about, and not only us, a lot of educators around the world were very disgruntled about our discipline system inside inside the schools.
So why do we call it the luau?
And we called it the luau because at a particular school that we were involved in, that's just what it looked like to us. It was very colorful, very fun. But I told you guys when we started talking about doing this episode, I said, this is the episode
it was a hit.
That's going to set things off. We had did many episodes before then, but this is the episode that ruffled feathers. I think because they knew some things to be a lot of truth in it.
A lot of kids were getting rewards and chips and Coke and and granted, we don't think that discipline should be punitive. Like, you shouldn't beat the kid over the head, obviously. But if what you're doing is not working and you're not listening to your teachers, then that's a problem. It's too fun for them. If a kid is asking me to go to ISS, I have no power in my classroom. That's the leverage that I have to send you to a place to collect yourself. So,
and if the kid know that ISS is a good time, then
so let's call a spade. You got to investigate it because a hit dog will holler.
If that's what you want to say.
That's what I'm going to call it. If you see yourself in the content, then I guess you should, instead of pointing your finger at me, you might want to go check the mirrar. But I digress. Go ahead. So what happened next?
So, I mean, just like George said, this said admin, as I was going out, he did mention to me, superstar. Oh, you're a superstar. And, I knew what he was talking about. So, one superstar to another. I said, I sure am.
You sound like I took the page of my book.
How did you know that you were? We both got the email that we don't need to report to work, and for us to just go to the district.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's go.
So you get to the district.
So we get to the district
next day.
Then what?
We're starting with me.
Yeah, we're gonna start with you. I mean, you tell me. Go ahead.
What George talking about?
We're trying to say. Okay.
Well, I guess I could go first because my interview was not my interview, but
it was an interview.
It was
your interrogation.
My interrogation.
I feel like that's the right name. Your interrogation. So what happened, girl?
So I get there. My appointment.
I was.
Yeah. So our investigator comes trotting out.
What did it look like? I need to do.
She comes walking out.
She was excited.
I mean, yeah. I'm not excited, but she does these all the time. So,
really?
She was not. She was nice. She was nice in the beginning.
She was actually very pleasant
in the beginning.
So she comes out. She's
like,
up.
I need the details. I'm ready.
It changes, switches up.
She takes me to her office. She's like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm good. Everything's great. Everything's fine. So she sits down. She says, okay, Miss Carter, we're just going to get straight to it. She had the YouTube now, mind you, she had pages of notes.
Wait, it was like a book.
She had sat down with timestamps of everything.
Girl.
Right, that they felt was offensive to them. Mind you, everything inside of the timestamps were a culmination of
things that you said,
Nikki, things that I've said, but they're all topics that tie into teachers. Like we never identified any school because we've taught at so many different schools. Yeah. So anyway, so she goes through and she says, okay, so I'm going to play this clip for you here. And I'm like, okay. So I'm sitting here watching it and I'm smiling, I'm laughing at it.
You looking good, right?
Of our channel.
Okay.
That look great. I'm like, we look good. I was proud of the work that we had on the screen because, and I'll get to why I'm proud of it, right? So she says, so right here, this part where you're talking about the luau. I said, yes. She said, you talk about chips and Coke at the school. The students are given chips and Coke.
Yeah.
Do the kids get chips and Coke at your school? I said, sometimes they do.
Yeah.
And sometimes they get it at districts all around the state of Georgia.
Was she worried about the brand or?
Oh, well, I'm going to get to that. So she was like, okay. And so then we go through other different types of clips. And here you talk about your principal says that she feels undermined. I said, well, why does she feel that way? And she said, well, because here she says that you told another teacher, there was another science teacher who came in and they were kind of dragging their feet with hiring this particular person. And I told that particular person, I said, hey, because they told me that they wanted to go to high school. I said, well, go ahead and go. Because
they had not been given
nobody had talked to them. And at this time we had vacancies that
a lot of vacancies.
And I had a full classroom of students and I'm a special education teacher. So I can't even service my kids. Right? That's a problem.
That's a reality.
So there are vacancies all over the district, which, to be honest, the school, they're just vacancies.
They can't keep no teachers, but go ahead.
I mean, I wasn't saying that. What I'm saying is that there was a vacancy. I'm going to say it.
But go ahead. It's vacancies.
There were vacancies all over, right? So I advised him to go ahead, go apply to these other schools.
Yeah.
And I was talking about it in the podcast because we were talking about, I think, teacher exodus or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Mass exodus. It was that episode. And so she said, yeah, here, you told the teacher that he should go to another school. I said, yes, I did.
And what that had to do with this? Like, what that had to do?
Everything on the list had everything to do with how someone felt personally. Now, there is nothing in that file that was criminal. We had never verbally or physically abused a child, had an altercation with a parent, had an altercation with any employee at our school. Everything that we had done in that podcast held up the standard of whatever handbook they had given us.
Yeah.
Every single thing was offensive to whomever felt like the school was going great.
Yeah. So can I ask a question?
Like
so how did we get to the point of being investigated? Because I think that's what I think that's what's missing right now. How do we get to that point?
Okay, that's a good question. So
let's just cut to the chase.
One of our coworkers apparently, from what she told me, our investigator or our interrogator,
according to what was in the file,
right? It was a male that said that they were offended by certain things in the podcast, which they thought were about them.
Because
yeah,
I don't know. Male, female, whatever the case may be. But oddly enough, our students and teachers had already knew about this podcast. I think, that luau episode really stepped on some toes because our students were begging to be on the show.
And still do, right.
We had the podcast since November, so this is February.
This is March now because remember, we're bleeding over into March.
So,
we
March.
went up there, 2-3 times?
So, okay, so...
a waste of time.
So, let me go back.
Okay.
So, let me go back. So, that was that. So, she goes through and she's looking through and she's like, okay, well, here's a paper. I want you to write down what your side of the story is, blah, 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 or how you feel like it's not about your particular school. And that was that. So as I'm coming out, you're going in. Okay. So then now it picks up with what your experience was.
I need to know this.
Because now I'm out in the lobby writing down
your side of the story.
Like I'm one of the kids doing an incident report.
Absolutely.
On a green paper?
The snitch paper.
It wasn't green.
Snitch paper. That's a snitch paper. It wasn't green?
It was beige.
It was beige. Oh.
It was off-white.
Oh, off-white.
Okay, go
ahead.
So, the same things Joya has said. I won't, say all of that stuff all over again. But we go in, I went in, I did the same things that she did. Which she did the same things with me that she did with Joya, playing clips, had the timestamps, had all her paper on there. Some things that she was calling out. I'm like, I didn't say that, just still in her investigation. So, and then she was trying to show me clips from the podcast as well. I told her I didn't need to see them because I was there. So you don't have to. That was just a waste of time. Like, I don't need you to show me anything. I'm a host. So, she goes on and she does, talk about it was a few things that she talked about. The chips and the Coke stood out, a lot for whatever reason. And like I told her, and as Joy has said, there were a lot of students in our school around the world receiving chips and Coke as a discipline.
Or any type of candy or snack.
Right. Yeah. Chips and Coke was and like a general term.
The bigger picture is, why are we doing this?
That's what I want.
That should have been the bigger picture. So they tried to say that I was talking about one of my students. Now, for that said student, as I told her, I'm talking about this is a student that's everywhere. And this is just not about this particular student. But if that's, I can't change how anyone feels about that. And just, she was saying, like Joyce said, that, my principal felt like that we were, I was undermining her.
There we go.
Because come to find out, which I didn't know, that was, this was the first I had heard of it through my interrogation, that this was something they had in place for the student for his bad behavior.
So this was
the chip and coke.
So the chips and coke was a part of the student
behavior plan. And I had
for that one student, or just
yes, because they figure out, that hey, she's talking about this particular student. Right, okay. So they were trying to address that. She's undermining what we're doing at the school to have this particular student in the behavior plan. Well, like I said, that's the first I had heard. That's the first I had heard of this plan. Being that I was the teacher, I should have heard of the plan they had in place. And, they felt like if the parent heard the podcast and I was singling out their kid, first of all, I don't, I have a good relationship with my parents. And for this said parent that they assume that this said student that they assumed that I was talking about, their parent had already knew about them giving that student chips and coke, because I would take a video. I would record the student eating the chips and coke and send them to the parent. And they were just as frustrated as I was and asking, why is my student receiving this for bad behavior?
Question.
So, and not to mention the plan that was put in place by the district wasn't being followed.
I have a question.
Wow. So they were not in compliance.
So when we talk about behavior.
If this is the plan that you say you had for that said child, I had no idea about it. But the plan that the Louisiana, from the district came and provided was not being put into place.
I have a question. Would that, to kind of help it be understood on why this is problematic, is it the norm for a student to receive things that are chips and cokes as part of a behavior management plan? I know you do this, but I don't believe of all the teachers that I've ever talked to and all the teachers read it and all that stuff, I've never in my life, through all the studying I've done, seen where chips and coke is an appropriate response to behavior management.
Right. So
I'm just asking.
Outside of teaching, I am a registered behavior technician, and in that line of work that we do, we don't reward bad behavior. So if a child, if there's a stimuli that we're trying to turn into a positive, we're not going to reward a child with chip and coke if they are doing something that's not the positive behavior
I rest my case.
Looking for. It's common sense.
I rest my case.
If you're acting up, coming to class, acting a fool every day, and know that when you come to school and act a fool, I'm going to get a chip and coke.
So you're going to do the
I'm going to do that. I'm going to keep on showing this same behavior. So you giving a child chip and coke is a reinforcer. They're going to keep reinforcing the same behavior.
Correct.
So that's not the behavior that you want to see.
Okay.
So you shouldn't award the child with coke and chip, because they're going to keep doing it because they're going to get that coke and chip.
That's what I was wondering, that because if we're saying that we're singling out a child and saying that the administrator is saying that you are singling out the child because you should know that this is their behavior plan, and you're saying it's not, but now we know that it should never be, and it's not the district's plan. Were you really singling out a child, or were you being singled out?
Again, the chip and coke was just a code for all students.
Sure.
So because the school that we were employed with, they were giving the kids candy, coke, any type of reward
to get in a shut up and sit down.
The discipline wasn't as strong as it was in the past. So that was the chip and coke. So what happened? So they
come back the next day, turn them get the same chip and coke.
So after you,
So she said that. Okay,
let's get back to the
meat potato.
To the lady. So anyway, she ends. I'll just go to the end part. This is, the first visit. She lets me know that, that I'll be off from work. Paid administration, of course. That they would still be looking into, the investigation was still ongoing.
Okay.
And there was some things that she had asked me that be taken away or removed from
Same.
the podcast.
Yeah.
And I told her I would have to let her, I would have to get back to you all to see about that because it's just not a one-woman show. Now she did, give us some kudos. She talked about how nice it was and how she felt like, this was going to be a big deal.
So
everybody knows now.
The investigator complimented the podcast.
She absolutely.
She like it? Shout out to you for following us, girl. Thank you.
That is so sweet.
I
didn't know that.
I love it.
And she wasn't wrong. 'Cause, here we
That's,
are.
that's really
Season
nice.
2.
Now, mind
I'm
you,
sorry,
she
let me
was
stop
very
being
pleasant.
messy.
Yeah,
in
that
the
was
beginning.
that was the first visit.
So
apparent-
that's that.
So apparently we was moving fast. So her, I guess superior bosses probably told her to kick it in high gear.
Well, let me before we go into that, I think the real messed up part about this, again, this was not a criminal situation.
Right.
We were not monsters in doing or saying anything wrong to any students or any parents. And what was so messed up is that their Black History performance was that day. And a lot of students, when, we ended up coming back, they were like, where were you all? Like we were looking for you all to encourage us.
Well, that's when you make
before
an impact.
the play.
They were
very upset.
Looking at my emails,
text messages,
emails, Google Classroom, wherever they can get a comment. Where are you?
Yeah.
When are you coming back? I'm in so-and-so class. I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Did you leave us?
Yeah.
And we, of course we can't say anything about it because it was a waste. It was a completely waste of time. So we go back.
So they kick it up in high gear. Okay.
Kick it up in high gear.
This is a couple days later.
And mind you, we already, have a legal team or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
So we know we were in the boundaries of our contract, and what we were doing. So that was never an issue. We just wanted to see how far this district was really going to take it.
Yeah.
So we go back.
I'm dead.
She done kicked it in high gear. Now, mind you, for me, it was already a conflict of interest because she was a former employee there.
Oh, at the same school.
At the same school.
Oh, okay. Just curious. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know. Wait, say what now?
Yes. This said
investigator.
The investigator used to work at the same school that we were working at. Oh, okay.
That's a problem.
Well,
Yeah, and you know what? You're probably right because she said that in the Mass Exodus episode, the first time I was there, she said, "Yeah, I heard that you talked about how so many teachers left the school." I remember when that happened.
Bet she did.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
keep going. So you went back first. You went back the second time for the first time.
She went in before me.
Okay. I'm getting all the tea too. I'm liking this. Okay.
Yeah. So just to make everything short, it was.
Don't make it short. Tell me.
It was the Trump course this time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she was a different person.
Yeah.
What? Not Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
So she goes in and she's this when I know they was finna start playing raggedy.
Oh, okay.
She goes in, she try to call out, a particular part in the podcast where I was talking about an AP pushing carts. And
I remember this incident though. I do remember this incident.
There was an AP that I didn't mention the name of carts, and it was a personal account against myself. This is my personal experience, and I talked about I didn't name of course any particular school, but in my teaching experience, I had an AP that was trying to do a tug of war with me with my cart because they wanted me to stand where they want me to stand.
This is during your morning duty.
This was during the morning duty, and I said the AP was acting like a jack.
Wait, say what now?
Instead of you worried about the word jack, which is a donkey. She was acting a donkey.
She was. Yeah. That's
and then and for you were trying, not that you were saying, oh, that AP was unprofessional, but you were going to actually stage another employee that wasn't there because only two people that was in this scene or event at the time, and that was me and the AP. But you were going to place
someone else,
another employee there, so you can make a point that I was talking about this AP when the AP you just already had said, oh, the AP said, oh, she's talking about me. I remember that happening.
What? Wait a minute.
Wait,
so
say that again. So
what?
they were going to place another employee
to say that I was talking to they was going to say another employee was out.
So they had
outside at that time.
They had been talking to other people essentially.
But she also saying that she admitted. That's what I'm trying to get to. She admitted to doing it, and then said, "Oh, but the problem was."
I remember that happening. She's talking about me. I did do that.
So you remember it happening, AP, but that's not the problem that we're addressing.
So they no, go ahead, Nikki. Sorry.
So she's addressing that she said jackass, but not the fact that somebody's literally tugging a word with your equipment that you holding on. So you're standing outside.
And I should have let her go ahead and run my foot over and give me a little work.
A little effort.
But you have morals though.
And integrity.
Right. So you were saving her essentially.
Yeah, you helped her out.
I'm looking at her like, you really doing this?
So the investigator brought up that part.
Yes.
Of
but there was no leverage because what were you going to do with that?
Why do you think they kicked it up a notch?
Because
here you go.
Maybe because I think it was kicked up a notch because I think the intention was I'm going to scare them with an investigation. They're going to leave here and they're going to take it down. Okay. And I think that was the intention. So when that didn't happen, okay, let me take it up a notch. And the other notch was in teachers, you have to read your contract.
Yes.
You have to read your contract and it's the code of conduct.
Yeah, and it's your code of ethics because it's not on your handbook.
And the attorney had already said they're going to try to prove that you are an effective teacher. That's the only move that they could do. Prove that you were an ineffective teacher. And I already knew that wasn't going to happen. I knew that it was a waste of time at that point for them to drag me up there, take me away from my students, waste my gas. I already knew at that point it was a waste of time because here's how I know. By that time, and I pointed out to her when she tried to, these things can make you look very ineffective. I said, well, that can't happen because I've had all my evaluations. About 5 of them at this point.
Say it. Go ahead, I'm ready.
Unnecessary ones, right? I don't have about 5 proficient.
Oh, dang. So you proficiently ineffective? Is that what they were trying to prove? Or what they were saying that your absence of the classroom was ineffective? Because that was
here we are. This is March. We've had the podcast since November. I've been at my job.
Doing what you're supposed to do.
Every day.
For 2 years at that point, right?
Every day.
This is
right.
Interesting.
And here you are. Think you're going to pull this. So when she realized, I guess she didn't know that I, didn't have, I don't know. Well, she said, you're right. I have your evaluations right here. She had all that. She said, you're right. So that, she knew she couldn't go with that ineffective because I've had my evaluations. So that wasn't going to work.
Okay.
So the next thing she go to, well, your principal might not renew your contract. Boop. I didn't even say nothing because little did she knew. I don't know if my principal had told her or not. In January, I already said I ain't coming back.
Damn. So you had So 2 months before you get investigated,
it's not working.
It's like,
so they're digging at this point, to try to scare. This is scare tactics. That's what it sounds like to me. Like they're trying to intimidate. This is supposed to be intimidating. So why do you think I don't want to know what your perspective. Why do you think they kicked it up a notch? I need to know.
My meeting didn't last as long as hers.
Oh, okay. Why not?
It went left.
Go ahead.
So I go up after Ty.
Okay.
And so she takes me back. She was very quiet. Didn't say anything.
So the walk pissed her off already.
The walk. No, I think
she didn't get nowhere.
No, we didn't take the podcast down.
Oh,
see the time
I remember us talking about
the first meeting and then the second meeting, there was no movement, no conversation from us.
Yeah, it was quiet. They gave us some time.
They gave us some time.
That's why I said the first investigate. The first time we got called, that was the scare tactic. Oh, they're going to take it down. So we didn't hear nothing. What, like 2 weeks?
It was a while.
Because I remember us having a conversation, and I remember us discussing, not in detail, because some of this stuff is great to me right now. But
because I want to wait to tell you because you didn't know. Right?
Yeah, I'm eating all this up. So. Yeah. I know that we talked in general, and I know that we've had some discussions, but I remember around that same time, I asked you guys, hey, what do you want to do going forward? Do you want to take this down? Like, do you want to stop? And I remember you specifically saying, absolutely not. We're doing what we need to be doing.
Okay.
You believe in what we're doing. So that let me know. I was like, okay, they're going to fight it to the end. I'm going to ride or die with them. Let's go.
So it's a long walk to her office. Oh. It was oddly quiet. I pick up energy. So I said, okay, I kind of know what this is about to happen. So I sit down. She said, you know what, Miss Carter, I'm just going to get straight to it. This podcast is very unprofessional. I said,
not the one said that we looked
that she liked it last week. She don't like it this week.
See, I didn't know she said that, but interesting. I said, really? I said, okay. I said, okay. Well, she's like, your podcast affects the climate of the school. I said, how? Wait a minute. I said, we've had the podcast since.
We need to stop right there.
Wait a minute.
Close us out, Joy.
You got this? Where's my camera? So you got to watch the next episode to see what happened. Did we stay? Did we not stay? What happened to us as teachers? We'll see you on the next episode.
Did we get written up?
What happened to our license? All because we're just trying to give a voice to you all. So, bye.
Bye. Rhodes. Oh my God. Slow. What is wrong with you?
All right, so we're going to just pick back up.